that white supremacist sign thing was such a joke because it was never a white supremacist sign until Democrats just started saying it was a white
so let's go with that.
sign.
So let's go with that for a moment. So you mean to say that Kyle Rittenhouse arranged to meet with a bunch of Proud Boy members in a bar, by the way, a known hate group, and just by chance, it's just coincidence that he's hanging out with a bunch of white supremacists, and he just decided to take a picture. Haven't seen him do this in any other pictures, by the way, just with the white supremacists. And he was just doing, hey, everything's A-okay. It's the same people that put Kyle Rittenhouse on a pedestal, okay? They're saying Penny is a
Kyle
hero.
Rittenhouse was a hero.
Okay, well, that's absurd.
And
I can't.
Not.
Okay, first of all,
it's not absurd at all.
Okay, well, we can get into the weeds on that one, but I'll tell you why I completely disagree. First of all, even Kyle.
I mean, he killed a pedophile who was attacking him.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether he was a pedophile. I'll get to that. What somebody did in their past, it has no ramifications on the situation.
A pedophile who attacked a minor, and he killed him. I'm very thankful he did that.
Again, has nothing to do with what took place that day and irrelevant. But going back to what I said.
How is it irrelevant?
I'm going to explain it to you. First of all, Kyle Rittenhouse admitted himself that he shouldn't have been there. Number two, Kyle Rittenhouse was acting like Mr. G.I. Joe, and if you think it's a good idea for a 17-year-old to show up with an assault weapon with no real experience in law enforcement to show up to a very dangerous situation, I think that would make anybody an imbecile. That's number two. Number three, we know that Kyle Rittenhouse, a week before that took place, on a video, said he was dreaming about shooting people that were stealing liquor out of a liquor store. That shows the train of thought of somebody. When I see somebody or hear about somebody shoplifting, normal people, the first thing that don't come to their mind is, I'd like to kill that person. No, you would say, hey, I'd like that scumbag to be held to account. They should be thrown in jail.
I mean, as coincidence would have it, the people who he killed just so happened to be attacking him. It wasn't like he just randomly killed people.
Did I call him a murderer?
No, I'm just saying.
Okay, so let me finish. I didn't call him a murderer. What I'm doing is setting the foundation of Kyle Rittenhouse is a moron. He should have never been there. He admits he should have never been there. A
moron's a different argument.
Okay,
I mean,
listen, if you're a 17-year-old kid, well, you said he's a hero. Morons aren't heroes. A 17-year-old should not be showing up to a dangerous situation with a gun. Now, let's go to the two people that died and the third that was shot in the hand. Yes, the first guy absolutely physically assaulted him first. Don't care about that guy's past. All I care about is in the moment. You seem to focus on these people's past. It's irrelevant to what took place that day. The first person attacked him. He defended himself. Then what do you have? You have a large group of people that didn't see that first shooting, but they heard it. And how do I know about this? Based on testimony. They saw an active shooter situation. They didn't know the circumstances, and a few of those individuals, the second person that he killed and the third person that he shot, and the third person testified to this, that they thought it was an open shooting situation, and they were trying to save lives in doing so. The first guy deserved to die. I believe the second guy thought it was an active shooter situation, didn't know the circumstances, and was trying to do the right thing. I feel the same thing about the third guy. Now, do I think Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer? No, I don't. A jury decided. I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer. I think he's an idiot. Now, I don't think anything is heroic of what Kyle Rittenhouse did that day. What he did was stupid. He should have never been there. He should have never had a gun. And now he's getting paid by right-wing media entities making speeches. I don't want to hear a moron who should have never been there to begin with making speeches and talking about gun rights when he's the idiot at 17 years old with an assault weapon who dressed up like G.I. Joe. That's not a hero. You know who the heroes are? The brave men and women who serve this country honorably are firefighters and police officers.
He was going there to administer aid to the city that he frequents.
Then why was he? Then if he was just going there to administer aid, why was he dressed up a G.I. Joe with an AR-15? That's bullcrap, and you know it.
To defend himself from people who were attacking him. And as coincidence would have it, he was attacked.
He should have never been there to begin with. He admitted that.
Well, that's
he was dreaming. See, this is why this is so important. And this was inadmissible in the case because the judge was also a moron, okay? A week before, he said this in the video. You could look it up. He was dreaming.
I know what you're talking about.
That's not a normal way of thinking for somebody that wants to help people and is just holding onto a gun to defend themselves. He literally said he was dreaming about shooting people for shoplifting. That is not a normal thing to say for someone who goes to a community and just wants to defend people. He literally said he wanted to shoot people for shoplifting. What normal human being, I don't care if you're 17 or 70, thinks when someone walks out of a store stealing bubble gum or a beer that they should die? That was the train of thinking of Kyle Rittenhouse, and that is not the thinking of a hero. That is the thinking of a moron and an idiot that should have never been rewarded, and he's now being rewarded for his stupidity.
See, what I say to that is, yeah, he was dumb to say what he said about the dream, but he was also a kid who had that dream, and I can understand that context because he was probably really pissed off of seeing.
I disagree. 17 is not a child. 17 is old enough to know right from wrong, and 17 is old enough to know that if you shoplift, you don't deserve to be executed on the streets. It wasn't just him daydreaming. That was his way of thinking, sir, and he got his wish. He killed 2 people and he shot a third. He should have never been there to begin with. Now, I haven't called him a murderer. In fact, I've never called him a murderer. I've called him a moron. And right-wingers out there, like the Charlie Kirks of the world, are rewarding him, and you think he's a hero. I go back to what I said earlier. Heroes are not idiots. Heroes are not idiots at 17 years old that dream of killing people that shoplift. Heroes are firefighters who go into burning buildings and risk their life. Police officers that go in harm's way every day.
He killed people who were attacking him, period. That's literally what happened.
And he killed people who were attacking him because he wanted to be there in a very dangerous situation, dressed up like G.I. Joe. He wasn't there to provide aid to people. He was there because he wanted to be a tough guy.
That's literally what he said he was there to do.
Because he can say that if he wants to. O.J. Simpson also said he was innocent, okay? He can say that if he wants to.
But that's apples to oranges because you have to look at each specific case.
You're right, it's apples to oranges. Kyle Rittenhouse might have said after the fact that he wanted to help people, but what we know is a week before he said he wanted to kill people that were shoplifting. So you can't make the case, oh, he just wanted to help people when he's on tape a week before saying he wanted to kill people, Dave. He said he wanted to kill people for shoplifting.
Because he was there administering aid or at least trying to.
He administered aid? He administered aid to people? What did he do to help people? What did he do? What did he do? Besides dressed up as G.I. Joe, what did he do?
Yeah, he was saying how he was trying to
what did he do?
Like a dumpster that was on fire.
Wow, what a hero. Yeah. What a patriot. So a 17-year-old that shows up. Hold on. A 17-year-old that shows up dressed up as G.I. Joe with an AR-15 and might have put out a dumpster fire. I don't even know if that's true. That's a hero to you? Those are the people that are patriots?
Well, the thing of it is people that go and try to quell these riots that were going on in these Democrat cities, yeah, they're heroes because the Democrats in power just had no interest in quelling these ridiculous riots, where people like the guy that attacked Kyle who died were just running around rampant. And I'm glad that guy's dead. And the other 2 people who attacked him, I'm not saying they deserve to die because their context of the situation was different.
But saying that you're glad that someone is dead is very different than calling somebody a hero who should have never been there to begin with. It was stupid, and most reasonable people would agree he should have never been there in that situation, and even Kyle Rittenhouse has been on the record as saying that. So he made a grave mistake being there to begin with.
Well, he's going to say he should have never been there after he killed people. Of course, he's going to probably feel that way.
So let me ask you a question. If you had a 17-year-old son, and there was a very dangerous protest going on and violence going on, you think it'd be a good idea as a parent to give your son, a 17-year-old, an AR-15 and have him show up in camouflage? You think that's a good idea? Is that responsible parenting?
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. How about just no? Instead of probably, how about just no? Come on, David. You know that's not a good idea. Come on, man.
Sure, fine. I mean, his mother was definitely irresponsible, but I don't think that he is the sole person here who's in the wrong.
Okay, saying that he's the sole person, I never said he's the only person that's in the wrong. You made the case that he's a patriot and a hero, and I could not disagree with you more. He's a stupid kid that made a very stupid mistake, in part of why people were shot. He's not entirely responsible. I do believe he was defending himself, but at the same time, he should have never been there. extremely dumb and immature. And here's something else for you. Someone that you've called a patriot and a hero. Hold on one more sec. Patriot and a hero. During his trial, he shows up at a bar with a bunch of Proud Boy members. We know that they're a hate group. And he shows the white supremacist side in pictures that were circulated on social media. Yes, that's right. The Proud Boy members, he showed the white supremacist sign, known as the OK sign in pictures, with a bunch of white Proud Boy members in the middle of his trial. What does that tell you about Kyle Rittenhouse? Either he's extremely stupid or bigoted in nature or both. Because that's not normal behavior.
That proves nothing.
Yes, it does. It proves a lot.
What does it prove?
It proves that he's an idiot and he's probably a racist bigot. People who use the white supremacist sign and hang out with Proud Boy members shows you what type of people they are. Normal people that are not racist, including people in the middle of trials, don't hang out with Proud Boy members showing the white supremacist sign. That's what the guy who you call a hero and a patriot did. He used the white supremacist sign hanging out with a bunch of Proud Boy members in a bar.
So that white supremacist sign thing was such a joke because it was never a white supremacist sign until Democrats just started.
Okay, so let's go with that. So so let's go with that for a moment. So you mean to say that Kyle Rittenhouse arranged to meet with a bunch of Proud Boy members in a bar, by the way, a hate group, a known hate group, and just by chance, it's just coincidence that he's hanging out with a bunch of white supremacists, and he just decided to take a picture. Haven't seen him do this in any other pictures, by the way, just with the white supremacists. And he was just doing, hey, everything's A-okay. I'm okay. And it had nothing to do with white supremacy. Are you making that claim? He hasn't done.
No. What I'm saying is the reason people started putting up that sign was because all these Democrats were saying the OK sign is now a white supremacist sign.
I don't care what Democrats.
So people are saying this is ridiculous.
I don't speak to Democrats.
So they do it as a joke. Sure.
Okay, well, I don't speak for Democrats, and I don't care what they say. All I'm telling you is this. It's not a coincidence that Kyle Rittenhouse was hanging out with a bunch of Proud Boy members in the middle of his trial, white supremacists, and that all of a sudden he uses, as you would define it, as the OK sign. I define it as a white supremacist sign. By the way, the same sign that Roger Stone has used and others from right-wing fringe groups. Now, if you can show me a picture,
like Obama.
So if you can show me a picture of Barack Obama hanging out with a bunch of white supremacists using that sign, then I will agree with you.
But I can show you a picture of him using that sign. So by that logic, he's what, therefore a white supremacist? It's just a ridiculous argument.
But it's not a ridiculous argument because it's you guys always seem to say context matters. Let me repeat myself once again. Mm-hmm. He was hanging out with a bunch of hate group, Proud Boy member, white supremacists. Barack Obama wasn't hanging out with a bunch of white supremacist when you claim he used that sign. There is a difference. Context matters. And by the way, Kyle Rittenhouse was the guy that was seen at a Black Lives Matter protest with an AR-15 dressed in camouflage, and a week before dreaming of killing a bunch of black people that were shoplifting. So I think context matters a little bit, and I think most people would say the context is a little different between a Barack Obama and a guy that was hanging out with a right-wing white supremacist fringe group using that same sign, sir.
It still doesn't really prove anything or matter to the case. Again, the people who attacked him were, that's why he killed them, because they were attacking him. He didn't just kill innocent people.
If you think that Kyle Rittenhouse,
I agree that he's dumb. He was a young, dumb kid.
Okay,
but
well,
I disagree.
It's more than just being dumb. Okay, by the way, that person that you characterize as a young, dumb kid is put on a pedestal by right-wing, far-right Republicans like Turning Point USA, who actually reward him and pay him to speak on college campuses. You're right. He's extremely stupid. He's a very dumb, naive kid who's now getting rewarded, by the way, for his stupidity. I appreciate the call, Dave. I completely disagree with you. Patriots, heroes, we hear the same thing about January 6th. Donald Trump, I would imagine the guy who you voted for, calls those who assaulted police officers that day on January 6th, those who beat police officers with their own batons, lost fingers, lost eyes. He characterized those criminals and those thug terrorists as patriots. 702